Katy Perry went up to the space yesterday, and she spent no more than 4 minutes of intense pleasure up there. Came back and talked about how much in love she was with it, how amazing it all was. And she's talking as if she's Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin, you know, landing on the moon, first people planting a flag. She was in space for 4 minutes. She's got longer songs than that.
And it's women who are behind the scenes at NASA and contributed to the space program. Okay, that I get. What did these women do? Like, honestly, one is sleeping with a billionaire who created this program and is jetting people, to outer space for like 10 minutes, for as long as like your average YouTube video takes.
It appears that Hollywood has once again outdone itself by releasing what could very well be the most expensive selfie stick in the history of the world. Katy Perry, Gayle King, and Lauren Sanchez have just been propelled into the upper stratosphere of absurdity, literally, thanks to Jeff Bezos and his shiny, sky-piercing tribute to midlife crisis compensation. If that line alone is not enough to grab your attention as forcefully as a publicist's tweet about a sensational situation, then what is? Then you should buckle up because they have just been propelled into the upper stratosphere. During this time, microphones were gushing over the first all-female space crew, as if Sally Ride, Mae Jemison, and hundreds of other engineers who were quietly brilliant had never existed.
It was very profound. I don't know if you've seen Katy Perry talk about it, but she's basically a guru now.
Yeah. What were her findings? That's my question.
Well,
what did she learn?
Daisy, which is super important. It shows you how quick the flight was. The Daisy that's like snipped from its life source was still alive or still vibrant.
Yeah, and it's look
at her.
Yeah,
Daisy.
6 celebrity women, including Gayle King, Katy Perry, and Lauren Sanchez, who is the plastic fiance of Jeff Bezos, took a Blue Origin rocket into space on a trip that lasted from takeoff to touchdown less than 12 minutes in total.
5 women went up into space, right? Jeff Bezos, the man who paid for it all, sent his wife up, which tells you something about their marriage, doesn't it? I think he was hoping she wouldn't come back.
Imagine the following. However, despite having 6 celebrity passengers, 0 astronaut training, and exactly 1 phallic rocket that was painted Amazon Prime blue, it roared off a site in West Texas for a suborbital hop that was shorter than the wait at your local drive-thru. Despite this, it was hailed as a milestone for womankind, because it is evident that the glass ceiling was not broken by the fact that actual scientists have survived months of bone-crushing microgravity over the course of several decades. It seems to have vanished the moment Katy Perry floated for approximately 4 minutes and declared that she had been spiritually reborn. She seemed to be a cosmic butterfly emerging from a diamond-studded chrysalis. She also babbling about a daisy that remained vibrant in weightless limbo, as if it were a secret message from the universe rather than a flower that had been ripped from its pot.
Just so ridiculous the way some of the media were covering it, the way they were like self-congratulatory. They've gone next level.
I had to come back. I mean, we're getting married. If I didn't come back, that would be a bummer for me.
Oh my God, you guys, look, we're seeing the moon. Guess what? We all see the moon just fine down here. Have you seen it, guys? Great.
And while major media sources were drooling over colorful language about female empowerment, Joe Rogan threw out the punchline that was heard all over the internet. He joked that he might open the hatch if Katy started screaming firework, which sparked a cycle of fury that was more rapid than a TikTok craze. Underneath all of the jokes, however, there was a question that was glaringly obvious. When did a 10-minute ride for tourists become a moonshot during the Kennedy administration? Because of this carnival of privilege where the fiancé of the billionaire banker gets a free pass to play astronaut while actual STEM programs plead for financing, why are we applauding like trained seals instead of giving this carnival of privilege the side eye?
Right, it's so amazing. Like, they went to see space. We're supposed to see them, right? Like, they admired the universe, and what they were expecting was for us to admire the fact that they were rich enough and famous enough to have been granted this utterly vacuous experience from which they learned absolutely nothing.
Despite this, the cameras continued to roll, the capsule continued to coast, and in a less amount of time than it takes to watch a whole season of a comedy, our protagonists returned to Earth, uttering profound statements that were perfect for Instagram, where Katy uttered the words, "I felt universally connected to love," with a sincerity that was so thick that it could completely cover a studio wall. These girls disembarked in beautiful designer jumpsuits, ready for press shots, stating that history has been rewritten, lady power has been released, and critics have been officially put on mute. This is in contrast to the fact that an actual resident of the International Space Station requires 6 months just to rebuild bone density. To remind you, the only barrier that was broken was the world record for the shortest zero-G influencer collaboration. Here comes the cynical little me, reminding you of this fact.
Now, so they go up there and they float for like 10 minutes,
At least.
and then they come down.
Let's not minimize this.
No,
Let's
big deal.
let's celebrate
Yeah.
female astronauts.
And they
'cause
were
did-
united.
I know some people are going to disagree with me here, but 11 minutes really isn't that long, and you really can't accomplish that much in 11 minutes.
In the meantime, scientists who literally understand the cosmos continue to languish in the algorithmic basement since they do not have any pop singles or red carpet stylists. And if the inequality itself does not make your blood boil, take into consideration the cost of the tickets. According to rumors, each seat is estimated to cost a cool multi-million dollars. This is a sum of money that might be used to endow scholarships, fund a decade of research on the planet, or at the very least, purchase enough school microscopes to prevent pupils in 8th grade STEM classes from sharing a single lens. On the other hand, let us instead finance an 11-minute cosmic thrill journey so that a talk show host can tweet about perspective. Tabloids portrayed Rogan's roast as misogyny, ignoring the fact that the man has also insulted every other overhyped space tourist regardless of chromosomes. Of course, the narrative required conflict, so the tabloids presented Rogan's roast as insulting to women. However, controversy is what drives clicks, and clicks are what drive ad money, which ultimately funds the very media system that is promoting this publicity stunt as an epochal event. This feedback loop is even more flashy than the rocket's landing burn, demonstrating once more that Hollywood's preferred fuel is self-congratulation.
I have no doubt that it was a cool experience. It was not historic or significant in any way, but it was still, I'm sure, cool. More than cool, it must have been profound and quite moving. It's a shame then that it was wasted on a woman with the wisdom and intellectual depth of a newborn poodle.
Well, this voyage lasted 11 minutes.
Amnesia, that is selective, can be mixed in. And just when you thought the spectacle could not get much bigger, Oprah hinted at a sit-down special on women reaching for the stars, which guaranteed at least one crying close-up during the show. Meanwhile, Blue Origin insiders reportedly courted even more A-listers for the next flight. If you pay careful attention, you can already hear a studio intern coming up with slogans for merchandise, such as, "I left Earth for 10 minutes and all I got was this enlightenment." Through the process of monetizing your most recent growth experience, there is no better way to demonstrate progress than through this method. At this point, you might be yelling at the TV that the idea of private space travel is something that will motivate future generations. It is true that inspiration is important. Yet, inspiration that is devoid of substance is like cotton candy. It is sugary, fluffy, and devoid of any nutritious value. And when that sugar rush comes to an end, we are left with the harsh reality that science is laborious job that requires a lot of patience, and it is a long way from getting champagne toasts at the touchdown. As a result, perhaps the most valuable message for people who will one day become astronauts is that grit is more important than glitz, and that true heroes orbit the Earth and carry out experiments that will never be featured on the entertainment pages.
I had Commander Chris Hadfield on, and he was at one point in time the longest person that had been in space from, wasn't he? It's like he was there for like 6 months. And he was saying it was unbelievable, like how difficult it was to recover once you get back to Earth. He couldn't walk. He was just like a total vertigo. Like his whole body was like so not used to gravity. All of his bones were weak. All of his muscles were weak.
But these just seem fine, these ladies.
Well, for now.
Let's
not
quick.
minimize.
Right.
Let's not minimize the sacrifice they
Yeah,
made
no,
for a
it's
great
huge.
age.
It was a
For the
big
world,
deal.
In fact.
Yeah.
For the world. They're
To show
profoundly
people.
different. They're profoundly different.
To show people what's inspiring.
That's what I'm saying.
For Rebelling the cases like us do the tiresome task of reminding viewers that calling out hype is not anti-woman, anti-progress, or anti-fun, the headlines continue to chant, historic, Katy continues to impart newfound wisdom to her millions of followers, and Jeff Bezos continues to polish his reputation with each glittering launch because, regrettably, nuance rarely sells. One may say that it is anti-nonsense. And while we're on the subject of viewers, I'd want to know if you would be willing to give me a quarter-hour selfie session on a billionaire's rocket. Please take a moment right now to tell me in the comments. On the other hand, would you rather have your illumination at ground level? Mostly due to the fact that your insightful commentary keeps the algorithm running and my caffeine budget alive. Let's get back to the story. Not content with spiritual sermonettes, our celebrity crew shifted their focus to environmentalism. They praised the Earth's thin blue line, as if no astronaut had ever waxed poetic about that before. Conveniently, they ignored the fact that each launch emits more carbon than your uncle's pickup truck consumes in a lifetime. Hypocrisy, on the other hand, is Hollywood's preferred scent, and they wear it like designer perfume, spritzing just enough sanctimony to cover up the odor of excess.
Has shot a bunch of women tourists who are totally unqualified to be astronauts in a remotely controlled spaceship for 10 minutes into orbit. How insufferable, all the feminists aboard? How much do we not want this rocket to return to Earth?
Katy Perry, in other words, had certainly set the bar high for herself. She was so insufferably stupid and ditzy before the flight that everybody wondered if she could come up with anything even dumber when she landed.
As a matter of course, public relations representatives presented this contradiction as a conversation starter rather than a blatant contradiction. This demonstrates once again that word salad can dress up any nothing burger as farm-to-table cuisine, despite the fact that discriminating palates can detect the absence of any substance. Fandom has become a religion in today's society, and criticism is considered heresy. Despite this, supporters rush to protect their idols. However, the analytics reveal a more interesting story. It is clear that audiences prefer genuineness, or at the very least unfiltered sarcasm, over manufactured devotion, as seen by the fact that view counts increase when Rogan's quip is played rather than when the solemn statements are included. This is the reason why we are here, providing roast steak rather than cotton candy. As the news cycle continues to spin, real female astronauts are quietly testing new radiation shielding, protein crystals, and psychological endurance on the International Space Station. They are preparing for another mission that will last for 6 months.
Who is it? Katy Perry? I didn't even know she was still relevant.
It was flat but quiet. These profundities, Walter. Hold it, buckle up.
Absolutely insane. I don't know if it's just woman cringe, Hollywood cringe, or elitist billionaire privilege cringe, but
a few accomplishments that are only going to garner a small portion of the attention that is bestowed on an 11-minute Star Trek episode. The fundamental humor of our time period is precisely this imbalance. It is easier for the richest guy on the planet to purchase headline space than it is for him to purchase rocket fuel. Genuine feats are more likely to be successful than surface-level gimmicks. Several days later, the capsule is currently awaiting the next influencer cargo, while it is awaiting fresh paint in a hangar. Your humble narrator watches the circus with popcorn in one hand and skepticism in the other, wondering at how quickly society switches from astonishment to irony. Pundits debate whether or not selfies taken in microgravity damage the scientific legacy. To conclude this beautiful roast, let us raise a glass to the following. Here's to the brave new world, where anyone with enough connections can get an astronaut badge faster than a Starbucks latte, where the level of empowerment is measured in the number of hashtags that are posted in a minute, and where every expensive adventure comes wrapped in a gift of virtue signaling. We raise our glasses to the show. I pray that the memes always work out in your favor. And if you found this voyage through interstellar grandstanding to be enjoyable, then you should hit that subscribe button as quickly as Katy Perry found love in the cosmos. If you do, then you should stay around, because Hollywood never stops, and neither will our sardonic deep dives into its next glitter-dusted meltdown.